Love it or hate it, the fact remains, we've been talking about this for the last 15 minutes.
She's making it sound better than it is. There's a few good parts, that's all.
Who knows anything about that guy? No one's ever lifted that rock. He could be Batman for all we know.
I guess I didn't ask because I didn't want to know.
We saw this thing on TV. It was right in the middle of the news. It was cute.
You want to be able to relax.
Interesting crowd in there.
Same crowd out here.
Welcome to Mad Men. I'm Jon Negroni, and we're going to be talking about The Marriage of Figaro, which is episode 3 of season 1 of Mad Men. And with me to help me do that, first we have Will Ashton. And hey, Will, before I forget, can you get the cake at High Top?
Oh, yeah. Hang on one second.
Also, please don't abandon your family.
No promises.
And also we have Michael Overholtz. And Mike, why are you sliding me a cufflink? What does this mean?
You're my knight in shining armor.
Oh my gosh, I've been waiting for this my whole life. We're talking about Marriage of Figaro, which I was telling Will when we finished episode 2 and everything of Mad Men. And I told Will that this was like my episode of Mad Men where it all kind of just came together for me as a show. And I think everybody has that episode. Everybody who keeps on with the show, right? Everybody has that episode where they watch this show and they're like, I'm in, I'm invested, it's going to happen. But for me, it's Marriage of Figaro. I got the sense, though, in the pre-show, Mike, that you hate Marriage of Figaro this episode. Is that true?
Yeah, this is the Mad Max Fury Road of Mad Men Season 1 for me. People love it, but I hate it. You know, too much, too much for each their own, you know what I mean?
So what you're really saying is that you hate me, and I represent the episode, too?
Well, I just see you walking everywhere, John, and it's like, where are you going, huh?
Where the hell are you going? Which, by
Mike,
the way...
sorry.
I had a question about that, but go ahead, Will.
No, I was going to ask, Mike, are you anti-Fury Road?
Oh, big time. Big time. Yeah,
there's news to me.
There's an old episode I'll send you, Will.
Mikey and I watched the movie together at the AMC Mercado in Santa Clara, California.
2015, I would have to assume this was.
Yeah, no, 2012.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, 3 years
we got
before
an early screening of it.
Yeah. It was pretty.
That's why I didn't like it. It was like 10 minutes long. They had just shot a couple scenes.
It was an assembly cut, yeah.
It was a sizzle reel.
Yeah, no, that is a legendary time. I don't know if that episode is still. I know it still exists. I don't know how hard it would be to find it. You would have to have a really good Google search.
I was talking to my friends about this podcast, and I was telling them I used to be on a podcast with you, but I could not for the life of me remember the name of it. So I Googled Jon Negroni Mad Max, and it did come up. But
oh wow, that's not a complicated Google search at all. Okay, there you go. I think Will's Googling it right now because you got the blue phone out. Saving it for later.
I was curious.
What annoys me about that, Will, is that you can dig up my past, but when I try to dig up the Post Pop podcast, you suddenly get a little annoyed and bothered.
Yeah.
One of these days, Mike, we got to find it. Did you know about this? That Will had a podcast in his college days?
Well, it wasn't just me, but
he ran the show. You were the ringleader.
No,
Will.
I was definitely in co-host mode for that.
What is it?
Mark Maron.
What is it they say in this episode? No one's begun to try to pick up the rock that is Will Ashton, or look under the rock.
Nobody picks up that. Will Ashton could be Batman for all we know.
That's true. He could be.
Yeah. But no, really, Mike. So do you actually dislike this episode? Is that for real?
No, I just give you shit. Honestly, this is probably my favorite episode I've seen so far of the series.
Oh, okay, yeah. 3 episodes in, we've already hit the peak. I think it's the best episode of the season, which I'm gonna try to hold that up to scrutiny though, because I don't know, maybe during this process we're gonna get to another episode and I'm gonna be like, actually maybe I'm wrong. But right now, that's my stance. I'm sticking by it. I guess we should just dig in, right? First thing I want to say about this episode, which I really the first thing I appreciate about it is the structure, because you don't see it coming, right? I know, Will, you had seen this episode before, but did you remember the structure of this episode? How it starts, the first half of it is Don's work life, and then the second half of it is his home life in Ossining. Did you remember any of that?
Well, there's a scene on the train where we meet somebody from Don's past, and he calls him
not Don's past.
Don, the character that we have known so far, is past. Don, as we know him's past.
This is the first mention we get of Dick Whitman.
Dick Whitman. I couldn't remember the name, but Yeah, I mean, I remember that subplot, but I didn't remember if it was this episode or if it was a future episode where they really dived into that. So I remember I was texting you when that scene came up. I was like, oh, like I remember this episode because I remember that one pretty well. But I didn't remember where it was in the season. So I was thinking they were already doing that whole thing, and I was surprised. But that was just kind of like a teaser for what's to come later in the season. So yeah, I mean, I thought it was that, but then once that was revealed to be off the table, I remembered what this episode was when we got the actual home element of it, because I remember that whole thing pretty well from when I first saw it, just for the reasons we'll discuss later. Yeah,
I was barely paying attention to anything you said because I had a good reason. Don't worry, because I'm trying to figure out how to change your name on the thing to Will and Bishop, and I can't seem to figure it out. So maybe in the next episode I can fix that up.
Will and Bishop or Will Bishop?
Will and Bishop.
Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty obvious.
Okay.
Because you all are listening, our names right now are Jon Draper, obviously, and Polly Doggy. It's my favorite. You kind of do look a little bit like a golden retriever, Michael, and in a good way.
I've been told I'm a golden retriever boyfriend.
Nice. I wish you were mine. Okay, so you already mentioned it. The episode begins with, and yeah, that's actually really a good thing to point out. We get Don's work life, we get his home life, and the first scene is kind of like who he really is, right? Because at first, if you're watching this fresh, and I don't even remember what I thought when I first watched it, to be honest with you, I was like, oh, I must have been like, Dick Whitman, who's that? Is he just like humoring this guy? Because the guy's just like, oh, I live and breathe. And so he clearly knew Don or Dick when he was in the army during the Korean War. And I think the watcher maybe kind of can question, like, is that for real? Or is he just like playing along? And if so, why would he be playing along? Did either of you think about that? Or were you just instantly like, Dick Whitman? Here we go.
I remember the first time I watched it, I just thought like Dick, Don, it's the 50s. We give each other weird nicknames that don't make sense. Like
that is a weird nickname, yeah.
So I thought maybe that was it, and maybe his like middle name was Whitman, like Dick Whitman, Draper, whatever it is, and he goes by Don Draper now. But obviously, on the second time through, more familiar with the situation, and what really struck me this time was I was expecting Don to like play him off. Say, oh, I don't know who you are. So the fact that he is like, I do remember you. He takes the card. That stuck with me. I'm excited to see how that plays out.
Yeah, I'm like, this is like I don't even know how many times I've seen this episode, but I think this time around I was like, wait, why isn't he worried that people are going to overhear this? Because he rides the train all the time, and future seasons will establish that he knows people on the train, and like the commuting like lifestyle is obviously one that he's pretty familiar with, right? So it is a bit of an odd duck of a moment taken within the context of the whole series. What was your reaction? Well, I assume you were staring at that lemon ad for the Volkswagen. You couldn't think of anything else.
But yeah, I mean, I thought it was a genuine moment for him because you see before he answers that he looks over his shoulder to make sure that no one's really watching before he answers it.
True,
and you can tell that he's taken off guard in a way that we haven't seen from Don/Dick at this point in the show. So it felt more genuine than anything that he's shown us before, even like when he has this fairly duplicitous life. And he has moments where he's kind of taken off guard. This is the first time where it really feels like he doesn't quite know how to move forward or what's the best response. So he's kind of like winging it in a way that we're not used to for Don. So it feels more vulnerable for Don Draper in the way that we're not really privy to at this point in the game. Worth
pointing out too that we get little bits of Dick Whitman throughout the entire episode, particularly with the Rachel stuff. But it's something that you won't really pick up on that if you're just starting out with the series. So yeah, I see Mike, you're nodding. You agree, because I think like there's a specific line of dialogue that Rachel has where I was just like, oh yeah, we're going to get to that in like season 5 or whatever it is. Yeah, and then no, that's actually a good point, Will, that you brought up about how he like looks behind him too, because I think one of the themes of the episode is how Don isolates himself everywhere he is. It's a good episode in establishing that like he's not just like this lonely sort of like cool cucumber at work. He's also like that at home. And in this situation too, you know, maybe part of that whole thing where he's like on the train and nobody knows him right now, that actually does kind of hold up with later seasons, because I think in this particular season, he's at his most isolated in the world, kind of closing him off from people. And who knows, maybe in future seasons, he'll be less like that. We'll find out, huh?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's for Don, and certainly I guess any man at that time, it's all about keeping up appearances. And there's a whole thing with the cuffling as a metaphor for like because of this thing, it's starting to unravel, so he can't like really keep himself together, though no one's really paying much mind to it. Like he's feeling more vulnerable or more insecure than we're used to seeing. So I thought that was a neat little metaphor for his internal dilemma at the moment. Agreed.
I mentioned the Volkswagen ad gets reference here. He's reading it. That's going to come up later too. I love the look that Don has where he's just like right after the guy talks to him, he's just kind of looking around. He's just like, what just happened? And then you even see the ticket puncher kind of see the lemon ad and be like, you know,
I do want to disclose something before we get going. I just feel like listeners need to know, I think is pertinent for the course of this conversation for this episode. I am a proud owner and driver of a Volkswagen automobile.
Really? I did not know this.
Yes.
Didn't you used to drive a Prius, or am I totally making that up in my head?
No, you're absolutely right. I used to drive a Toyota Prius because San Jose to Palo Alto is a long drive.
Yeah, you got to go. Yeah.
But now you know what? I'm making a little bit of money. Okay. I'm in my late 20s. I drive a Volkswagen small. CC Sport, baby.
I love it. I've always wanted not to own a Volkswagen Beetle, but just to like have one for like a year, you know, like just lease it for a year, drive it out, see how it feels. Like, is this my personality? And I'm just not, you know, I guess
the only thing I would enjoy about driving a Beetle, because I don't drive a Beetle. Also, I'm pretty sure Beetles they don't make them anymore, but I'd be proud.
Which is fairly recent, right? They had a whole resurgence like a decade ago.
But I'd be proud to drive around and know that I'm getting little brothers everywhere to punch their siblings.
Michael Overholtz, everybody. So, okay, we have the most sexual harassment conversation ever in the elevator. Sterling Cooper. That's fun. So everybody gets in the elevator. We got our. I don't remember if we've seen Hollis yet. The elevator operator. We might have caught a glimpse of him. Someone might have mentioned him. But yeah, Pete Campbell is back from his honeymoon. Everybody's ribbing him. Everybody's like, they only got one thing on the brain, right? And I kind of love the Pete Campbell sort of B story in this episode, even though nobody really has a B story here. It's mainly about Don. But we do get a little bit in the work slice about how Pete's back and he's kind of high and mighty about his marriage. So I do have a question for Will, because Michael and I obviously know what's going to happen in the rest of the series with Pete. But yeah, Will, what's your Pete prediction for this season? I don't know how much you remember about what goes down with him.
My prediction?
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to be super specific, but like, yeah, what did you make of like this in light of like, yeah, what path do you think Pete Campbell is on right now?
Pete's trying to be a wife guy. He wants to love his wife.
Wife guy or white guy?
No, wife.
Okay, because he's doing pretty well at the white guy part.
Sure, yeah. I mean, he flies that category in flying colors, rather ironically. But yeah, no, I mean, he's being the ultimate wife guy right now. He's like, I love my wife. I want to go see my wife. I'm not going to cheat her. My wife. How
could anyone possibly cheat? And it is kind of amazing too how he's like, you know, he literally cheated on her the day before his wedding, and he has this like attitude about the whole thing.
Well, the ceremony changed him, John.
Oh, you're right, because he was new baptized. Yeah, yeah. That is a prevailing theme of this episode is marriage. It's literally called The Marriage of Figaro, the concert opera that plays in the second half of the episode, and this is the episode's about marriage. So, big picture, Mikey Overholtz. What do you think of this movie or this episode's interpretation of marriage? What's your takeaway?
It's interesting because you're seeing different stages of it and your different choices you have in those different stages of it, right? From, you know, the newlywed with his head in the clouds who wants to be that guy. He goes to Don, right? And he feels like Don's going to respect him more. Maybe they can go out and get dinner now with the wives. They're in a separate club. But then you get all these interactions later at the dinner party, right? Of these people married, the one divorced woman, and all the interactions. all this, I think it's just trying to say, like, there's no one way to have a marriage, and also being in one doesn't make you different than other people.
Yeah.
Which is also tough for the 50s.
I love that too, because it just dawned on me. I didn't think about this before, but we also get the 3 stages of the other woman, the home wrecker, for lack of a better term, because you have Peggy, who wants to be the other woman. You have Rachel, who does not want to be the other woman. And then you have Helen Bishop, who kind of just wants to emaciate men who think that they could possibly try to seduce her. And then a little bit of fun play there as well.
But then you literally also do have the other cheating woman.
Wait, other who?
Right? Or do I? Maybe I always interpret that wrong because I don't know. Who does Don film at the end?
At the end? Oh, that couple?
Yeah. Are they together? I always thought that was an affair.
Oh, no. That's not an affair. So that we're going to get to that, but I think that is one of the most important moments in the entire episode. It's one of the reasons this episode hits me as hard as it does. But no, you notice it like the more you watch the episode. And in this particular watch, I specifically looked out for that couple on like everything that happens with them during the dinner party stuff. But yeah, we're totally going to get to that. So Pete Campbell gets back. He goes to his office. And, Will, I got to get your reaction on the prank. I don't want to say the prank. Who put the person in
the slur. There's an ethnic slur used a couple times.
Yes,
in this episode. Yeah,
it's the 1960s.
Sure.
Yeah, I literally even thought about like, am I going to open this episode with a joke about that moment? I was like, probably not. I guess that's probably not a good idea. Yeah. But they prank it. They pay a family to basically like hang out in his office in like bundled clothes and everything. And I don't have anything to say about this. It's just Pete Campbell getting roasted in a very racist way. I mean, anything else to say there?
I would love to know all the work that went into making that joke happen. Like it was clearly a group effort.
Yes.
But I mean, how did they hire the family? Who found the family? How did they convince them to be in his office? Also, the family is pretty good at selling the bit as far as like acting indignant when Pete is in his own office.
They're getting paid pretty well. They'll sit,
Sure. But I would like to know how that came about. I mean, that's something I feel I was missing from this episode, but not crucial to the text, but something I would be curious to learn about for sure.
Do you have a reaction, Mike? I really don't have it. I mean, I do appreciate Don's like reaction to the whole thing. Like he just kind of makes light of it and he's just like, I'm surrounded by morons. It's kind of his attitude.
At least somebody's doing work in there.
I imagine, Mike, this is how you feel whenever you get on with Mad Men with me and Will. You're just like, these goofballs. When are they going to get serious?
Definitely, brother. Definitely.
Mm-hmm. Don is clearly shaken up by that train interaction. He's in a bad mood. And it's like, he doesn't want, he like literally, what's his name? Paul comes in and it's just like, hey, it's time to hang out. Time to talk. He's just like, or no, he comes in. He's like, hey, do you have a moment? He's like, clearly you do. He like snaps at him for no reason, but it's fine because Paul, we don't like Paul. Oh, sorry. Does anyone here like Paul Kinsey? Is anyone a fan? Yes.
We don't have a reason to not like him yet.
No, he was a jerk to Peggy.
Which one's Paul?
He made a move on Peggy and then condescended to her.
Pam's art school friend.
That's Rich Summer, Harry Crane.
Oh, you're right.
The guy that was sucking on the lollipop later in the episode?
No, that's Harry Crane played by Rich Summer.
Okay.
This is Paul Kinsey. I forget who plays Paul Kinsey.
Is he he's
a tall, lanky dude,
guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the one who's like, at least I still got my novel. He talks like that.
Oh, that guy. Yeah.
He gives Peggy the tour.
Screw him.
Yeah, let's not like him.
Let's change this from a Mad Men rewatch podcast to just a hater podcast.
Anti-Paul pod. Okay, that works for me. But yeah, no, I think this is also our first mention of Secor Laxative. One of the most important, the most important client to Sterling Cooper. Not Lucky Strike. Forget Lucky Strike. Lucky Strike doesn't exist. Secor Laxative, which I unbelievably gets mentioned so many times in this show. And every time it does, somebody always makes a bowels joke. And we never, ever see the client, right? Unless I'm forgetting. Hold me to that. I don't think we do. And I don't think we ever see a single like ad or like, and people just like bring it up. They're just like, I'm too busy to work on this. We have that whole thing with Secor laxative in an hour.
It's such a writer's device. It's hilarious. You know that's every writer's favorite joke. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. But anyway, first meeting of the day is about Secor laxative, and Don's in a bad mood, like I said. But they talk about this lemon ad instead of this whole discussion. So I got to ask you, Will, this is a very interesting scene. I think it's the best scene in the work slice of the episode, probably. I mean, unless you really like some of the Rachel stuff. But yeah, what was your takeaway from the lemon? Were you playing the song right after because you couldn't resist?
Which song?
Yeah, Lemon by Nerd with Drake, and never mind.
Okay, I maybe if I heard it. I'm not good with song titles. I know songs, but I don't know titles that well.
Lemon. Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Oh, that one. Yeah. Okay.
It's about the Volkswagen Beetle. Yeah, it was written in 1961. Yeah.
Sure. It was solid scene. I didn't like Roger Sterling's bad attitude.
Wait, what's wrong with Roger? Roger's the best part.
No,
my favorite thing is when he leaves. He's just like, I don't want to hear this.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it was a solid scene. I wish I had more of an opinion on it.
Well, were you aware of the lemon ad before you saw this?
Vaguely. I mean,
yeah.
I've seen that like before, but I mean, I wasn't around at the time. Like, it wasn't like something I saw in magazines and newspapers and all that jazz.
I mean, we learned about it I learned about it in my advertising classes. That was my major. And yeah, it's very important, very influential ad. And it's funny how Pete Campbell's the only person who seems to like see it. Although he does strike me, he kind of says he's like, I think it's brilliant. But he does strike me as the kind of person who thinks that, but he doesn't know why he thinks it's brilliant because he doesn't really stand by it, right?
Oh yeah, no, that has that line that's really good where it's just like the only brilliant idea in marketing is 99 cents or something along those lines.
Yeah, it's just like the most brilliant. I forget the exact line, but yeah, it's like the most brilliant line in advertising will get you 99 cents, whatever it is.
Yeah, it's a good line.
Which falls in line with the last episode when Paul literally says like, "This is all about media buys. That's all that really matters." Sorry, but I want to turn it to you, Mike. And Mike, I know you're probably just like, I can't talk about the lemon ad until I talk about that super awkward exchange between Pete Campbell and Peggy right before he walks in the office and joins the fun.
What exchange?
No, remember when Pete goes to Peggy?
No, John. It never happened.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It never happened.
It never happened.
It's I really like this for Peggy, right? Because this whole last episode, you just see her just kind of being a little bit obsessed with Pete.
Oh, she's got that look. Like she looks at him and she's just like, bro, I'm on the pill.
But then you know, he shows up and you think she's gonna, you know, she played it cool. She was, it never happened, whatever it was. It's like, damn, Peggy, like you are playing the game, girl.
It makes me wonder, like, I'm always wondering, like, what does she see in the guy? And more, I keep standing by this theory is I feel like she's attracted to how much power she feels like she holds over this guy.
Interesting.
He's basically putty in her hands, right? He's the desperate one. He's the one who comes to her door, and she's the one who allows him to be in that sort of like, you know, like she doesn't pursue him. She just like allures him, and she just feels empowered by just how pathetic of a human being he kind of is. She's not attracted to the guys who are just like, you know, trying to, or who are all over her. Maybe I'm totally off base, but that's my interpretation. Well, it looks like you're reading something. I think it's your argument on how to take me down a peg, pun intended.
No, unfortunately not. No.
Blast. Oh yeah, before we move on, did you have anything to say about the lemon ad, Mikey O?
No, I think you guys covered it. I think the only thing I'll say is that it seems like Don does understand the power of it, right? Same thing we've been doing. We've been sitting here talking about the scene for 15 minutes, so obviously it's doing something.
Yeah, it's like some people are kind of like Roger. He's like stuck in his ways. He doesn't see the potential of the future. Don doesn't like the future, but he knows it's inevitable. Pete's the one who's kind of like, he knows it's coming. He thinks it's inevitable, and he thinks it's great. Yeah, a really great generational like understand, like 1, 2, 3, and then you have Harry and Sal who just kind of are there. You know, they're kind of the backgrounds of this scene for sure. But okay, I guess we can keep moving on. I think after this scene, we get to Pete confronting Don, and boy, oh boy, I think there's a term for what Pete's doing here. It has something to do with putting your lips on someone's posterior. I feel like that has a colloquial.
I thought this was an uncensored podcast.
It's uncensored. Yeah, I can't remember the word. Will, you got to help me.
Are you talking about being an ass kisser or a dick sucker?
Whoa, hey, Will.
A Dick Whitman sucker.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, Pete is just kind of like, Don, before I go, he's trying to, maybe he learned something from Peggy. He's been on the Peggy eyes, right? And then Don drops his cufflink. And
well, you forgot
there's hint about that, right?
One of the best lines are back and forth in the whole episode, which is just like, I'm glad to be back working with you. Something Pete like says that along the lines, and Don's just like, must not have been a very good honeymoon.
Oh
then.
yeah, well, no, he's just like, I missed you.
Oh yeah, that's right. I missed you.
Like, then I wish we're all on Don's side. It's like, bro, you were on your honeymoon. Why did you miss? Why were you thinking about me during your honeymoon? Because Don is disillusioned about marriage, and he's in a bad mood. But this is really important. Don is the hero and the villain in this episode. He's a terrible person in this episode, but this moment is really important because when he notices that he's hurt Pete's feelings, what does he do? He's like, I'm sorry. How's married life? Like, he actually does he knows when to turn on a little bit of like societal norms. Like, even though he doesn't care about them, he will do it if he absolutely needs to. And then Pete just eats it up.
Saying he's like a psychopath or something?
No, it's just that the ad world is a small world. And if,
Sure.
You're known for dressing people down, people are just not going to like you. I don't know who said that before. It was wisdom about working at an ad agency.
Yes, it was Aristotle, who I think he worked at Gray. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a block over, a few blocks up.
Yeah, a dozen blocks down, actually. Oh, gosh. It is... okay, so I did have a conversation with this about somebody once who thought that Don was like a high-functioning autistic, and I never really believed that, although I guess I'm open-minded to it. They were kind of like reading into how Don sort of does like modeling, not modeling like runway, modeling like modeling and learning societal like cues and stuff. So there has been some discussion about this. Like, is that fair to say that no one can diagnose a fictional character, right? But it was something that I thought was interesting and kind of shows up in the scene.
I mean, I don't think he's socially inept in any particular way.
Obviously, being autistic doesn't mean you're socially inept, obviously.
Well, no, I know. Sorry, I don't mean in that respect, but I mean like just that like I don't really get that personally, but I've only seen the first season, so I can't really speak to Don too well, but I don't get that vibe from his character personally.
I think the argument does come in later seasons when we see sort of like maybe how he's pushed down some of his like some certain qualities that people connect to autism, and then so I don't fully buy it. Yeah,
and is it
open to it?
In season 6, he says his favorite Netflix show is Atypical.
Mike, that is so wrong. It was season 7.
You're right. Sorry.
Atypical hadn't come out by season 6. You did it again.
I'm sorry.
I actually don't know if that's true. I don't think Atypical came out until like 2018, 2017.
Yeah, that's like a more recent show. Yeah, because definitely recent.
The Accountant. Yeah. That's what you were thinking of. Yeah.
That reminds me of how I forget who said it, but I remember someone theorized that the final scene of the final episode would be Dawn at like 80 or 90 watching the first episode of Mad Men. And I was like, that doesn't really make sense. I'm not quite sure how it would work, but I would be for that if it somehow like went full circle with him in like 2008, watching a dramatization of his life and acting like he's a real person that this is based on.
But then turning it off after 5 minutes.
If we're talking about modern Don, can I just pose one question while we have time?
Sure.
Does Don Draper use ad blocker?
Yeah, 100%. He doesn't believe in advertising. He just sells it, right?
No. I mean, he's spending a lot of time looking at this lemon ad. So he's clearly watching the competition. You know what?
That's a good point, actually. You win the argument, Mike. You did it again. Too smart. Yeah, but no, the way that Don Draper kind of gets Pete to just get out of his office is something that's always stuck with me. because I did watch this first season, especially before I started my career. And getting people to leave you alone is an art. And Don Draper in the show perfects it. But no, literally that line where he's like, hey, maybe one of these days we can get together at the what? Maybe we can. And he just gives him that, beauty. Like tosses the folder. Just like, yeah, maybe we can. Get out. It's perfect. All right, so we're still moving along this portion of the show. We get this portion of the work life part. We get Lady Chatterley Lover, Will Ashton's favorite book. Don't give me that look, Will. You recommended the book to me years ago.
Sure. I was going to ask you if either of you had read this book. I have not. I'm not too familiar with it myself.
I have not. Obviously, it does exist in real life.
Sure. I'm not saying it doesn't. I'm asking you guys if you had read it or have familiarity with it.
I'm Googling it right now.
It has words I'm not allowed to read.
Is it actually that saucy?
What do you think that word is that she's talking about?
Dick Whitman.
Sure.
No, this novel, oh wow, it came out in 1928.
What did it do?
It was first published privately, which makes sense. And then they released the unexpurgated edition in 1960. And it was the subject of a watershed obscenity trial against the publisher, Penguin Books, which won the case and quickly sold 3 million copies. And it was banned for obscenity in the United States, Canada, Australia, India, and Japan. So yeah, that's why she's just like kind of secretive with it. Apparently they weren't allowed to have it out at all. This is amazing.
Well, I mean, Peggy wasn't allowed to read it, period.
Yeah, no, they really like talk down to Peggy in that whole thing, don't they? Like literally flow from progressive, you know. Well, I guess right. Joan is the main culprit. She's just like, Peggy, you're too innocent. Peggy's like, bitch, fuck off. Like I fucked that guy right over there a couple of weeks ago.
She's like, I have had the sex before. Don't talk to me like that.
I have done the thing.
I have
and then some.
Had the peen and the veen.
I am a sex doer.
No, but she literally is just like, I know the word. You know, like the pained smile still.
So which word is it?
It was very Little Sister to me though. Like it wasn't sure. Like it wasn't like it wasn't endearing. It felt like
siblings be like that.
Yeah.
That's pretty fair. Once again, you're setting me straight, Mike. I love this dynamic. Okay, but that's a whole thing. We never come back to this. I mean, Peggy borrows the book, literally never spoken of again. It just kind of feels like a little throwaway thing.
Okay, I wasn't sure if that came up in a later episode, if that was setting something up.
No,
but I guess not.
I think the purpose of this scene is to establish that Peggy wants literally she wants Pete to have sex with her, because like the minute, like literally as soon as somebody's just like, oh, it's about married people doing it and like the forbidden passion, she's just like, I want the book. You know,
sure.
Because I think she's like genuinely turned on by it. Yeah.
Yeah. But also, I mean, it's just that like, I mean, by this point, how long has Peggy been in the office for?
It's only been a few weeks. So I think this is her third week working.
Yeah. But she still hasn't really earned the respect fully of her peers, it seems like, based on this interaction. Like, it's not like they dislike her or anything, but they still talk down to her and kind of belittle her and act like she's
she's young,
still innocent.
Yeah. She kind of dresses like an American Girl doll. So I get it.
Sure.
But that's pretty mean, isn't it?
But
it's the 50s or 60s. You can say that, John.
Okay. Sure. But I literally I just saw the book too, because I have the episode running. It says the unexpurgated at the very top. So there you go. When she passes the book to her. Also, this scene is important. I forgot to mention because again, the whole episode's about marriage. And so this is sort of helping to establish like, okay, here is what marriage means to these characters. And like, yeah, nice little. That's the thing that I do like about this episode. It's very cohesive. Every scene feels like it's sort of adding to that, save for maybe like 1 or 2, 3, 4 little moments that don't. So there's that. Okay, I guess we can. The next scene here, it's the boys. They're hanging out.
I've been waiting for this one. It's my favorite part of the episode, baby.
This is your favorite part? Were there?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so the boys are having a little bit of talk. They're kind of goofing, making jokes. Rachel Menken comes in, and they're going to give her the research report. So as we, of course, established in the previous episodes, Rachel Menken has given Sterling Cooper her business. They're going to help sort of revitalize her store to be more like Chanel and all of that. And this is like not a pitch for them. Like they aren't pitching an advertising thing. They're just sort of like pitching some directions and stuff to help, here's some of the groundwork that she can do as the business to make their advertising work. So they go through the research and everything. Don, of course, is like, takes one look at her and is just like, we appreciate your business. Like, you couldn't get more suggestive. The thing I'm confused about here. So Pete Campbell escorts her in.
Yeah.
And he introduces like, okay, Harry Crane media. I think that's the first time we've like for sure established that Harry Crane is like the media side of the business. But then also Kenny is in this meeting. But Ken Cosgrove and Pete Campbell have the same job. They're both account executives. So I don't understand, like, you can't have two account executives on an account, but like, why this? Like, I don't really get it, because is it so big of an account that you need Pete and Ken? Because like most of the series is about how they sort of compete with each other for different business, right?
John, speaking as an account executive.
Okay.
Peek for the listeners, peek behind the curtain of Michael's life. Sometimes you do have two account executives, and
I guess you don't see it as often when they're the same level, though, right? That's what's kind of throwing me.
I think in this case, it's so awkward for them that their client who's running this is a woman, that they want more hands on deck because they think it's weird, and you're going to have these curveballs you're not expecting, and so let's have the more the merrier.
It's an interesting read. I guess, my only counter to that is like, well, Pete's been away on his honeymoon. So it's just like, what does he offer in this meeting?
So then there you go. Maybe he was covering for Pete while he was on his honeymoon too.
Oh, you know what? That's a really good point. Mike, this episode, you are coming through. Will, you should take notes.
Well, it's because it's the best episode I've seen so far of the series, even though I hated it.
Sorry, Will. Will Ashton, in this scene, we have a lot of good stuff in here. We have a part where, of course, everybody gets caught in the lie that they have not been to the Mencken store, right? And sure. It's something that Pete says, like, a wrong that I will correct this afternoon.
Don said that, right?
Don said that. He said it.
I think he said Pete said that.
Sorry, Don did. So then Don also slides his cufflink over to Rachel. A lot of stuff happens in here.
Well, he didn't do that deliberately, right?
I don't know. Did he?
I thought it was an accident because I don't know. I mean, it's possible but it feels like it felt like accidental, but I don't know. I can't say for certain. You've seen this show more than I have.
I think it was flirting. That's my stance. Because you see the way that his hand kind of moves. It looks like he's trying to make the cufflink fall. Mike, you stepped away for a second. We were just talking about, was Don intentionally trying to get the cufflink over to Rachel to flirt with her? That's my stance.
I heard you, and I was ready. Was he flirting with Pete Campbell too then?
I think so. No, but I think in that instance, it was accidental. Whoa. But I think with Rachel, he knew it would happen, right? So he's kind of like, oh, my cufflink is a little loose. It's not really, but if I kind of maybe do that a little bit, shaking the wrist. You don't buy it either?
It's a reach, brother.
What? I think it's such a move. He gives her a look.
I don't think it's a reach, but I thought it was accidental. Because I feel like in the first scene where it falls off, it's meant to be accidental. So therefore, I feel like it should also be accidental in the scene to follow. It's like him kind of opening up.
And I do think it's important to note how Don capitalizes on the moment.
Sure.
That's why I think it was deliberate. I think it was planned. He was trying to create a moment.
John, just because you have to plan all of your wooing, for some of us others, it just kind of happens, baby.
Yeah, you guys are just so, you're so good at flirting.
You're like Harry Crane. You're just, you're not good at it.
How about that? I respectfully disagree, but I love the arguments. I love them. We kind of have a guy from across the pond. I guess he's supposed to be British. He's the research guy. He's not really a fixture of the show. But yeah, like we mentioned earlier, he's just sort of like, he's really mansplaining to Rachel Mencken here of like, our research has found that designer collections are a thing. And she's just like, I literally, like, what do you know about my store? We literally have these things that you're talking about. And then everyone's just, Pete's like, I've been on my honeymoon. Like, I love that he quickly goes to that, right? He's just like, I have an excuse. And everybody else is just like, kind of like twiddling their thumbs, looking down, super uncomfortable. Don owns up to it, though. It's another instance where the audience, who has been conditioned to sort of be like, Don's kind of a skeezy guy, right? He's dishonest, he lies, no one can lift that rock. But he has these little moments of integrity, which help us, like him enough to keep going with the show, because he's a likable anti-hero, right? Is that fair? Anti-hero? Yes.
I mean, he is charismatic and he is mysterious, and I feel like that's the main driving intrigue with him so far.
Okay. I don't know. Is that enough to say he's an anti-hero, though? That's where I'm wondering.
I mean, he's not Walter White, but or like
well,
Tony
Walter White's
Soprano.
more than an anti-hero, isn't he? He's like a full-on.
He qualifies as an anti-hero as far as the show is concerned, or he is, I guess, morally gray.
I feel like that's being generous to Walter White. I know we're not supposed to be talking about Breaking Bad, but I feel like he's a tragic hero turned villain. Okay. I'm gonna look up.
But you're talking Walter White at the end of the show, or like, and at least in the second half of the show. Like at the beginning of it, he's more of a anti-hero, kind of morally gray character, like
That's
most
true.
of the other ones. Yeah.
Well, okay. I looked up the definition because maybe I just need to establish this because I'm just sort of imagining my definition for it. So, essential character in a story, movie, or drama who lacks conventional heroic attributes. So, I guess that does fit.
Like one Michael Morbius, perhaps.
Michael Morbius. Should we stop talking about Mad Men and instead talk about the new feature film?
I will leave. I hate Jared Leto so fucking much. I will take the rest of this podcast and talk about how much he sucks.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to argue with that. But.
He is the Mad Max Fury Road of actors.
Well, that's a loaded and incorrect statement. But
I'm going to say that Michael Overholtz is the Mad Max Fury Road of Mad Men rewatch podcasts.
So
you
love me?
Come around on
okay.
I really hope you come around on Mad Max Fury Road. It's disappointing that you don't like that film, I have to admit.
I hate this Mad Max bit. Okay, so then Don escorts Rachel out of the office. They have a fun little interlude. Although Pete kind of just like, Harry, a word, and then we'll get to that. Don and Rachel, they have like a thing. They have some chemistry, right? He makes a little crack. I mean, we didn't mention it. Like Don makes like little cracks here and there about the whole prank on Pete, right? Where like literally Roger came into his office earlier. Was like, "Oh, I want the what out of my office in an hour," and he's just like, "When am I going to get my shirts?" There's a lot of like quickness with him, with his wit. He does the same thing with Rachel here, where he tells her it's a date when it comes to coming by the Mencken store that day, and there's a chicken in the hallway. Okay, do we like Rachel?
The chicken?
Mencken, a chicken, yeah. Is that a rooster?
I like the chicken. I think the chicken is a great addition to this episode.
New
I
junior
like Don's quote where he's a junior executive. I wanted the chicken to come back, or I wanted Don to come back to the house and be like, "Honey, we're having chicken."
Well, no, this episode is very pro chicken because in this next scene we get him saying no anything but chicken. So
right, it's basically a Chick-fil-A ad, really.
Sure. Well, if it was
wrong way
pro chicken, it would be McDonald's.
John,
right?
you've been wrong so many times.
I've been thinking of the cow holding up the ad, and that's all that's running through my head.
Eat more chicken, whatever.
Think outside the
which
bun.
I gotta say, from a marketing standpoint, kind of brilliant. Not to be a Pete Campbell about it, but
yeah, all right. Put the blue suit away, Will Ashton.
Sure.
Pete is having a conversation with Harry about the little flirtation that Don just had with Rachel, which he obviously picked up on. Harry says he did too. I don't believe Harry at all. Like Harry's just like, yeah, I noticed that. Yeah, sure you did, Harry. But he refers to Rachel as Molly Goldberg. Did either of you know about the Goldbergs, like the original show that he's referencing here?
No.
I had to look it up.
The only Goldbergs I know are on ABC once a week.
Well, I think that is like a spiritual, like remake, reboot, whatever of the original Goldbergs.
Complete
is my understanding.
CG Jeff Garland, apparently.
It's kind of funny because I looked it up, and Gertrude Berg plays the original Molly Goldberg, and it is kind of a weird like dash of like anti-Semitism from Pete Campbell, I think. Yeah. I
mean, I'm not too familiar with the new Goldbergs, but I'm pretty sure it's based on the creator's life because his name is actually Goldberg. But
I feel like you're yelling at me, and
I'm just telling you
now you're raising your voice. I'm getting uncomfortable.
Sure.
Pete and Harry have this weird conversation about infidelity. Harry's kind of like, oh, somebody on the side. And then Pete's just like, I never thought Jon would be that kind of person. But there's even this moment where Harry's just like, oh yeah, I don't need to cheat on my wife because I'm fine, just like not doing that. And Pete's like, yeah, same here. What was your read on that, Mike Overholtz? Did you believe these guys? Or are you a big fan?
I thought, okay, so also I should mention, remember when I was like, oh, this is my favorite scene in the episode? I lied. I thought this is a scene we're about to talk about. This is my favorite scene of the episode.
Okay, why?
I think two things. First off, if you've only been married for 2 years and you're like, it's been great, but I do need these little side flirtations at work to keep me going, let me tell you, buddy, you're 2 years in, man. You got a lifetime to go. That's not a
it's like a self-righteousness, right? It's just this sort of like moral superiority these guys are lording over other people. It's an interesting thing to consider. Will, I mean, you're more fresh on the series, so what was your takeaway?
I think these guys are not very faithful men.
Wait, so do you think Harry is cheating on his wife right now? And is like lying about it?
I don't know if he's cheating on her, but it doesn't sound like he's being the most faithful if he was trying to potentially sleep with Peggy in the episode prior.
No, that wasn't Harry. Will, you're still confusing these characters.
That was that bastard.
I'm sorry. I'll get to know him more as the show progresses, but sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. It literally so understandable. They do not look that dissimilar.
Okay.
Harry's the one with the glasses. Paul doesn't wear glasses. And Paul talks about the Twilight Zone. Harry also wears a bow tie. He's like a little Tucker Carlson.
And we hate Paul.
We hate Harry too. Harry is
whoa.
Probably the most despicable character in Mad Men, I want to say.
But we've already branded this as an anti-Paul podcast.
Can it not be anti-Paul and anti-Harry?
I wish you would have talked to me this off the air. Oh my god, I feel on the spot right now.
Also, Harry's trying to quit smoking. Which, I like how Matthew Weiner, I think he wrote this episode, he kind of adds in those little touches.
He did not.
He did not?
This is the first episode he is not credited as a writer on.
Well, once again, I don't get the raising of the voice. Like, it's just kind of like, okay, we're all friends here. No reason to yell. But yeah, no, I'm looking up because I actually don't remember who wrote this. It was directed by Ed Bianchi, that's a very familiar name.
This is also the first one that Alan Taylor did not direct.
That's right. I want to say, who is Rachel Menken played by? Who am I? I'm thinking of Maggie Siff. I am thinking of somebody here related to the director, but it's lost on me. So I guess I'll have to come back to Tom Palmer wrote the episode I'm seeing here. So not a name I'm as familiar with. I'm not going to lie. It says here he was a co-executive producer on the first season of Mad Men and wrote 2 episodes of the season. That's all he's really noted for. So that's kind of interesting. Okay. There you go, guys.
Well, let me ask you a question, John. Your wife, your new wife, gives you a call at work. Mm-hmm. What do you want for dinner? What are you telling her?
Not a ribeye in the pan with butter.
What?
That is no.
Oh, I think I literally will have a ribeye after. I'm going to do that after this podcast.
Okay. Ribeye in the pan is a joke. Maybe you put it in the cast iron and then put it in the oven. And I know a lot of people disagree with me. They're like, oh, you don't have to ever put a ribeye on the stove. I say, if you're going to do ribeye, do it on the grill. I get not everybody has a grill. Not everybody, people live in apartments. I get it. So sometimes you have to make do. If you're going to do it on the cast iron, I just never believed in the idea that you do the whole thing on the grill. You're going to oversear it while trying to cook it medium rare. You disagree, Mike?
I can make a ribeye in a cast iron in my apartment, medium rare, not overseared.
Make it for me right now? Wait, are you going to put a lot of spices on it? Are you going to do like rosemary, thyme, and all that other white people stuff?
I'm not going to put it on. I'm going to put it in the butter, and then I'm going to baste the steak. Yes,
You're going to do that?
Sorry, am I going to put flavor on my steak? Yeah, I am.
Oh, what flavor?
What do you mean flavor? It's like fresh herbs.
Those are not fresh herbs. They're probably freeze dried. First of all, are you getting them from an actual garden?
Getting them from
No.
PCC, Organic Community Store.
My take is that, first of all, you don't need rosemary or thyme with ribeye. Butter, pepper, and maybe if you want to get a little fancy, you get some maybe some steak seasonings if you're feeling a little fun. But all you need is that maybe garlic salt. Maybe.
I have literally never seen a human be so wrong so many times in a podcast before.
I can't. We need to have a ribeye off. I'll lose for sure. I'm not good at making ribeye. I just know what I like.
Happy to do it.
Will's a vegetarian in this episode because he's reading something, probably a ribeye recipes because we're making him hungry.
I have nothing to contribute to this conversation, so I was watching Maria Bakalova finding out she was nominated for an Oscar during the shooting of The Bubble.
What in the world, Will Ashton?
I had nothing to contribute to this conversation, so I wanted to let you guys do
you not like ribeye?
I don't know. I haven't had it in a long time.
Wait, have you ever cooked ribeye for yourself or any kind of steak?
For myself, no.
Okay,
I've had steak before.
Sure. So you don't cook ribeye?
I think
we never talked about what you like prepare in your apartment in Pennsylvania.
Sure. I think I actually chose steak for your wedding, though I might have picked chicken. I don't remember exactly.
I think Michael did too.
I very much deliberated over whether to pick chicken or steak because they both sounded very good, but I think I went with steak because I felt it'd be more filling.
You're a smart person, Josh.
The steak comes with a side of mashed potatoes too, which I was very interested in.
Did you pick the sides for this, Sean, or was that
no?
Okay.
We picked from a menu, and you couldn't pick the sides and the protein. It was literally this dish, this dish, this dish. So yeah,
I was surprised you didn't have a vegetarian or vegan option.
We did, but we actually thought we were limited, so we didn't put it as an option because we were worried too many people would request it. So we waited for people to be like, "Hey, is there a way for me to do it?" And we would give the vegetarian option to those people. We actually had somebody who wanted halal, and we couldn't provide that, so they got it's also a vegan option technically. So.
Oh, okay. That's good to know.
But Will, if you ask me if you want to change to the vegan option, it's too late. Sorry.
No, I don't. I would prefer the steak or the chicken, really. If you gave me chicken, if I pick steak and you gave me a chicken, I would not complain. I'm sure they're both delicious.
The New York strip, by the way, very good. Not as good as ribeye, but we couldn't do a ribeye, unfortunately. I wish we could have, but yeah.
Can I bring you a ribeye to your wedding? And would you eat it there?
At the wedding? Probably not.
Yeah, I'll be during the ceremony, I'll be in the back. I'll still be there watching, but I'll have a little grill set up.
This is gonna be great because not only Will, are you and I gonna meet in person for the first time ever? You're gonna meet Michael too. You're gonna sit at his table.
Yeah. Oh, really? I did not know that.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know you picked the seating arrangements already.
Well, I already knew I was gonna put you two together because Will, nobody else except for my parents
at this table. I know your parents.
Yeah.
Let's get into details about this wedding right now.
Yeah.
I think that is a fun but not subtle cue to move on. Okay, so then they have this whole conversation, Harry and Pete. I don't have anything else to add.
Harry.
Let's go to Menken's. All right, we're at the department store. Don kind of walks in. He's kind of taking a look around. It's a bit crowded because there's a sale. You're dancing, Mike?
Let's go to the mall
today. I really like Rachel. I kind of want a whole I remember when I first watched this, I was like, I feel like she could carry a show. She's such a fascinating character, young, single Jewish department store owner in Manhattan in the 1960s, carrying on the legacy of her father, strikes up a flirtation with a married man. It's gold stuff, Sure. Am I alone on this? Will, you're shaking your head?
I'm not shaking my head. I'm saying that's cool.
Yeah, I think so. I want to get to know more of these characters, like the one on the second floor with the teddy bears.
I want to say that the production design for this mall is pretty outstanding.
How so?
I think it looks fantastic. The design of the period design, I mean to say, I think is really outstanding. And I think it was a lot of hard work and a lot of attention to detail that was very successful and worth pointing out.
Agree completely. Mike, you're shaking your head though.
Yeah. I'm sorry. They were just out of Macy's.
How is this a Macy's? It doesn't look like a Macy's.
Bro, I'm sorry to tell you, that was an old Macy's.
I actually don't know where they filmed this. I assume it was just a set.
I bet you find out it's an old Macy's.
You also see...
I mean, I know the roof was definitely like a set.
Sure.
That looked like a backdrop. But everything in the mall itself proper looked great. I like the little Three Bears setup that like almost had like a weird Shining vibe to it.
Even Don is like, cool. The products look old.
Yeah.
I also want to say, for the record, though, that Rachel Mencken could get it. Like
Maggie Siff, we know.
Yeah, just
Mike is horny on Maine, I guess now.
He's down bad for Rachel Mencken. She's waiting for you. She wants you as a knight, Michael Overholtz. Like she would give you some knight cufflinks. She literally like what even like talking about the cufflinks is like kind of seductive, right? She's like seahorses, lucky dice, and Don's just like, can you get on with it? Like knights. It's like, okay, not subtle, but
well, yeah, I like that the knight. It means that he's further guarded, hiding himself once more.
He's so
Good
guarded.
Metaphor.
She's telling him everything about herself. She's just like, here's my entire backstory. She hands him her character sheet from Dungeons and Dragons. Don is just like, my name's Don. Like, what is up with that?
I also thought it's interesting though, because knights are supposed to be honorable, and Don is anything but.
She perceives him as that.
He's
because he was honest with her. Boyfriend of the year.
He's like, my name is Don, and I like to party.
My name is Don. I have a purple heart and blue balls.
Yeah, very, very creepy second floor. We're known for our service. I never understood, because like Rachel says that because the worker is literally just like sleeping. Why doesn't she wake her up?
Because I don't think she really wants to pay any mind, or because they were having a kind of casual conversation.
Yeah, she's more concerned with flirting. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like Don was a customer per se, and they were joking about it. Like they were just like being chill, and it gave them more privacy than they would have had otherwise. So,
she has a dark side.
I really like. I was gonna say I really like that. As just before the scene is about to end, she wakes up and stands up and acts like nothing happened. I thought that was a good
wipes her
touch.
mouth. Yeah,
that was a good touch. I like that performance from that lady. So.
I was just going to say that Rachel had a dark side, and she didn't wake her up because she just was like, as soon as Don is out of here, I'm firing this woman so fast.
I love that. Yeah. I'm going to believe that from now on.
I admire her dedication to not sleep on the beds that were, very comfy and made in the background. And she's like, no, I'm just going to sleep on this chair.
She probably was.
That means that she is dedicated to the job.
She's so dedicated.
And I think that's why
that she fell
and that's
asleep.
why I don't think she should be fired.
All right. I won't fire. We cut back to Sterling Cooper and Pete again, super high and mighty. We see Joan and Paul are kind of talking to each other a little bit suggestively, as usual. And then we see Allison, who I forgot to mention. We see Allison for the first time in the show. We might have seen her. Actually, no, never mind. I think we saw her in the last episode, or maybe the first. She is the one who worked at like the front desk, and I won't give it away, but she not an important character, but she's somebody who comes back up throughout the show.
She's the one that said, "Hey, Pete."
Hey, Pete. Which you can read in that first part that she's just kind of like going along with the prank, right? This is my question for you, Michael Overholtz, because she kind of goes over to Pete and she's like, "The grand lot of us are going over to land skis." Does she want to pull a Peggy? Like, she kind of want to go after that? What's that about?
I think that that woman's agent worked into her contract that she needs at least 8 words of dialogue per every 3 episodes, and they were just trying to meet that quota.
I don't know, because she like kind of looks at him when he rejects the whole like we're hanging out, and she kind of like she checks him out a little bit. She's like, kind of like swerving her eyes down.
Sorry, you can go, Will.
And then she raises her eyebrows too.
That nearly every woman in this episode is horny.
Is what?
Or something, or is horny.
True.
Okay.
You know, like they're getting turned on by that book, getting turned on by Pete of all people, getting turned on at with the parents at the party, getting turned on to Dawn, that divorcee.
Okay.
That we'll talk about later.
Here's what I'll say though. Here's what I'll say. And Will, I'm not trying to make you feel like John and tell you you're wrong.
I don't know. Sure. The women aren't horny in this?
No, they are. But I feel like the point of this scene isn't Allison. It is.
Sure.
It's newlywed Pete seeing what he's given up, seeing that maybe he could have gone out, but no, he is going home by himself to his wife. And that look that she gives him, I didn't interpret as horny, more as like a surprise. Like, oh yeah, you're different, you're changed. And it's supposed to be all about Pete, and we're giving a little bit too much thought to Allison.
I mean, the women are sweet, but that ribeye is sweeter.
So the actress who plays Allison is Alexa Alamani. Since Mike said we haven't been, Mike, you literally said we aren't talking enough about Allison, so I'll rectify that for you. Or wrong, I will personally correct right now. She has been in Lucifer. She was a writer for The Librarians, and she also played a character in Masters of Sex. And yeah, good actress. There you go. Also, I was wrong. This is her first appearance in the show.
I love hearing you say that.
Oh, that I was always correct in some way, just not fully correct. I made a little tiny error.
What's it called when you're not all the way right? Wrong.
Oh yeah, somewhat false, partially true.
What's it called when you just kind of kiss Rachel Menken on the roof? Oh yeah, cheating.
Made out. Yeah, I guess we could go to that part. Yeah, because Pete's kind of like, you look nice, Peggy, and then walks off, whatever. So Dawn is up there with Rachel. Rachel, she's good at flirting, guys. Like, she is like, how is she single? Because she's got game.
I mean,
like,
doesn't she choose to be single?
I guess.
I mean, she likes.
Is it that men are like threatened by her easily?
Well, she's an independent woman that don't need no man, right?
You're an independent woman that don't need no man, though.
Sure, thank you.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm just kind of confused because, like, I guess I don't know. In the context of this episode, actually, Helen Bishop, who we're going to get to, is kind of another Rachel in the sense that, like, she is independent and she's just like, she's not interested in being the other woman. But like, they're in a society, they're in a cultural context where that is the norm. And like, here comes Don Draper, who seems to be somebody that she can connect with. That's why Don Draper kind of connects with Helen Bishop instantly without much dialogue at all, right? But Mike, you were about to say that I was right, that Rachel Menken is really good at flirting.
Yeah, she's really great at flirting. I mean, she's so good at flirting, it was working on me through the television. She literally takes him to the dogs. German Shepherds, which I think is a nice touch, considering they're Jewish and they're, of course, awesome. The Menkens are Jewish, the dogs are German Shepherds. You get it, right? There's even like sort of like a reference, right, to like how they kind of made Menkens kind of happen about through the Great Depression, which I think is good context. Speaking of which, too, Mike, have you seen Apollo 10.5 yet on Netflix? I watched the trailer for it this morning and
highly recommend.
Yeah.
Highly recommend.
Does it have to do with Jewish German Shepherds in space?
Yeah, it's what it's about. Yeah.
Blink later, he did it again.
He's just unpredictable, you know? Will, you were going to say something about Apollo 10.5?
I was just saying that I was watching the film before we recorded. I still need to see the last 20 minutes, but digging what I'm seeing so far.
Good stuff. I just wanted to throw that in there. You'll understand why.
Listen to our conversation about it on Cinemaholics.
What's that?
Podcast where we talk about movies, not TV.
Oh, Cinemaholics, the Major Motion podcast.
There you go.
Yeah, Dawn decides to kiss Rachel after she says something very specific, right? She kind of mentions how, you know, she has her sister and everything, and she's just sort of like, she didn't have a mother figure. And then Dawn is just like, don't try to tell me you were never unloved. This is so important. Will Ashton, table this. We're gonna come back to this at some point, okay? This is such an indicative moment of Dick Whitman. I mean Don Draper. I mean Dick Whitman. So just keep that in mind. But of course, he tells her that he's married, and the electricity vanishes, and she's like, "Hey, I'm going to keep the account, but I don't want you on it." What do you think, Mike? Did she make the right decision?
Oh man, this is why the show is so good, right? Because part of you is rooting for like another affair, right? You're like, at a certain point, you're numb to it. You're like, Don, you're already cheating on your wife. We like Rachel. Let's do it. Like, Rachel, just do it, babe. Just do it. But then,
see what happens. Have fun, girl.
But then, the part of you is also like, no, this is inappropriate.
Yeah, she deserves better. She deserves a man who can actually be attentive. Yeah.
But I'm all for it.
It's the chemistry.
Yeah.
Right? It's like you see them kiss and you're just like, when's the wedding? Will, you're reading again. I assume you were reading Maggie Siff's entire IMDb because you can't wait to watch all of her performances after this show.
I guess, yeah. She hasn't really done too much of note.
We talked about this a little bit on the show, didn't we?
I mean,
it's
surprised that she didn't break out more after the show.
Uh-huh. She didn't get to play Lady Sif. It would have been perfect. Sure. They gave that to...
But, I apologize. She was in some critically acclaimed show that ran for 3 seasons that I didn't watch, but I feel like she didn't get like a major role that got a lot of notice in the same way that Mad Men.
Well, she was in Scandal. I know that. I'm trying to look up other stuff.
Oh, okay. I didn't watch Scandal.
Oh, she was in Push, not the novel Sapphire, but she was in the film Push with Chris Evans in 2009.
2009?
Everyone loves that movie.
A movie everyone remembers and cherishes.
Right. There was even a comic series. Did you read it?
No.
I did.
That's sad.
She actually went to Bryn Mawr College, which Betty goes to in the show. I just read that.
Cool.
That's kind of weird. Oh, and she was in Billions.
Oh, okay. Billions. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, Maggie Siff. We love her.
Oh, yeah, but Billions. So,
oh, God.
Billions is a show that's been running for like 5 or 6 seasons now, right?
Okay. I believe you.
I feel like it hasn't captured a lot of cultural cachet, but enough so to where it retains a primary slot on the, Showtime slate. And it seems like it's smart enough to where I'd probably like it, but not acclaimed enough to where I'm like, I gotta watch it. But it has Paul Giamatti.
I was just gonna say, is that the one with Paul Giamatti? Okay.
And the Homeland dude, Damian Lewis.
That always just struck me as bad Succession. Like Succession meets Suits.
Before Succession.
Well, I haven't seen Succession or Billions. What am I doing?
Is a good show. I will recommend Succession, a show I've seen 1.5 seasons of.
Maybe we'll have to do Succession after Mad Men.
It's a good show.
It would kind of lead into it a little bit, honestly.
Okay. I mean, by the time we finish this entire thing, right? We'll probably be at that
Succession will also be done.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Okay. Anything else on Rachel? Because I think we're going to cut to the second half of this episode, and we got to get going. We got to get this done.
Hour and 10 minutes into the recording. Let's get to the second half of the episode.
Well, yeah. We tend to do this. We tend to go a bit long in the tooth. So I don't want to go scene by scene here. We can do broad strokes. How about that? That's fine. No rules. So basically, we are now in the family life portion of the episode. We spent all this time on Don's work life. Now we get to see him in father mode. Betty shows up. Sally wakes him up. It's beautiful. It's idyllic. He has to build this playhouse. He gets super drunk.
Sure.
Love it.
An environment that Don loves and thrives in, as we all know.
He's so freaking miserable. Right? It's so undeniable. I love how subtle it is at the same time.
I mean, I think he loves his kids.
Yeah.
I think in his own way, he sort of loves his wife. And I think he likes his home. But you don't think he loves his kids?
I don't
think he loves his wife. I don't think he loves his home.
I think he loves the idea of it all.
Yeah.
I think he likes the protection that it has.
He likes that his life is like an ad. But it's like nothing underneath. Because he brings nothing to it. He's attentive, sort of, right?
He's a a breadwinner for sure.
He's a breadwinner, and like when Betty calls upon him, he's there. He comes through. He builds the playhouse, right?
I mean,
but he also gets super drunk.
Literally building a home in this episode, a playhouse,
Nice.
but a home nonetheless.
Yeah.
And he's getting ding dang drunk while he's doing it. And
who among us?
He
gets objectified beautifully.
Sure.
Love
I will
it.
say though, like he does a pretty good job building that house inebriated. I was expecting like a Homer Simpson kind of thing where he like fumbles at building the house or like passes out and like breaks
it's part
the whole
of Don's.
house.
Don has a brilliant mind.
Sure.
Right? Like the way
he
that he's
compartmentalize pretty well.
Yeah, because like the instructions you see, like they don't make sense to him. He kind of just wings it. But that's his life, is winging it, right? And like building things, only sort of seeing the pieces and putting them together and just sort of pretending like you've got it all figured out. That's Don Draper.
That's a really great catch and best point you've made all episode.
Wow, thanks, Mike. You're nice. When we're in this part of the episode and I'm kind of watching and I'm just sort of like, Don doesn't want to be here. And I do agree that he loves these kids and sort of like, it's almost like an obligatory way. Like he cares about Sally, but like, I just sort of get this existential dread from him. And I don't know if that's accurate. Like, it's just sort of like because he even says sort of somebody, I think it's Carlton comes up to him and it's just like, we've got it all. And he's like, this is all there is. And that's something that I think later in the show, there's even like a song that comes up. I think it opens the 7th season where it's like, is that all there is? It's a persistent theme where Don is disillusioned by the American dream. What do you think, Will? I think you were about to say something.
Well, I was just going to say, I feel like to what I was trying to say before, it's not that he doesn't like it or doesn't love it. I just feel like he just doesn't feel comfortable here. It's just not his like modus operandi. It's not where he thrives. It's not where he feels like he can maneuver and really like find an in and out in the way that he can in the work environment. There's too much leisure time. There's too much where he has to kind of fulfill a sort of like, patriotical, sturdy, like man about the house.
Do you mean patriotical, like patriot, or patriarchal?
Sorry, patriarchal. I misspoke.
I mean, you could literally say both, and I think they're kind of valid.
Sure. Whichever it's a choose your own adventure for my vocabulary. Whichever one you want to pick is accurate. But yeah, I mean, he just doesn't. It's not. I feel like it's just that he doesn't feel very comfortable. It's not like he doesn't like it. I think he likes his family well enough, or at least, as you say, I think he likes the idea of having a family and a stable home life. But he just doesn't like interacting with other people that kind of fit into that suburban home life. It is a walking hellfire for him.
It's also interesting. Have you guys been to like your friends' children's birthday parties? Like, or have you been to, as an adult now?
Oh yeah.
I have no kids.
Just like little kids though, none that are like Sally's age.
Well, I just think it's interesting. I remember being really struck by this and then like reevaluating my whole life and like my parents at parties. Like I remember being like 24, starting to go to these things. And then there's always the obligatory split where like the dudes go off one place and the girls go off one place. It is naturally what happens. And I remember just like the first couple times doing that, sitting there having some beers and being like, oh, wow, you all kind of hate your kids. Not like hate your kids, but like, I feel like you're a little exhausted by this. And this is like all a big thing for you right now. And this is what you want to do is sit with the guys. And I just get this vibe from the guys at the party and Don there, right? Just kick back a couple beers, let the women take care of the kids. It's a lot of work for you.
Yeah, because we see the guys have so much power still. Like we're still in that generation where they can do whatever they want, get away with whatever within reason. And I think like, at one point somebody's just like, we're going to leave. He doesn't ask his wife. He doesn't consult her. He doesn't have a conversation with her about it. He's just like, we're leaving. There's not going to be any cake. There is still this sort of like power structure in play. It's obvious. It's one that I don't think has gone away fully, where the wives are kind of like relegated to their own part of the house. Right. And I think like it is. I think the show is kind of fascinating in how it tackles that dynamic because like the husbands don't want to be there. but it's not really their wives that are dragging them there. It's their wives doing it through patriarchal power of like social norms. It's like the wives have circumvented the system because they know that they aren't not able, but like they aren't, they're not able to call the shots in a conventional way. They sort of use guilt trips. It's very like wives, am I right? Right?
100%. Absolutely. It's the women still have the power, but they don't actually hold the power. It's like they're manipulating the societal values.
Yes. Which is sad, because then you see Helen Bishop, who is like, clearly like her own person, like self-actualized and everything, and they don't know what to make of her. It is so embarrassing. Like they're just sort of like, what is with this woman? They try to belittle her. They try to mock her, but you just can't help but feel like they're so jealous of her, right? They're just so, because they are stuck with these men. Betty especially. I think especially the one couple, Chet and I think Marilyn was her name. And she is just like so annoyed with her husband. She's just like, this guy is annoying. His dad jokes aren't even up to snuff. Like, you got to have good dad jokes. I know that's one thing I'm excited for when Will, of course, has kids. Will's going to be a master at dad jokes because I've been sending him dad jokes periodically on Instagram every day for the last 17 years. And I think, Will, you're an expert now.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be pretty tragic if I don't have kids, but
it's okay.
Nevertheless, I appreciate the effort.
It's okay. You'll adopt. You'll foster.
Okay.
They'll be like Shazam kids. It'll be great.
Sure. Nothing against adoption. That's obviously a great.
Nothing against it at all.
Way of become. Yeah.
We're all fans.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. I kind of want to just, I don't know how I want to tackle this because there's so many things here and I feel we got to kind of pick and choose. Michael, what is sticking out to you there? Or Will Ashton, go ahead, please.
I mean,
Mike, stand down.
Just to kind of, I just want to say real quick, not that I condone doing this at all. Rather, I would say do not drink and drive ever.
Oh, I thought you were going to say don't use Christmas wrapping paper for birthday parties.
Well, to each their own in that regard. But
I mean, I would say never. I respect Helen Bishop so goddamn much. Walking in there and being like, yeah, my kid's shirt is wrinkled. And here is some Santa paper. Also, I'd fuck your husband if I felt like it.
Oh, I thought you were going to say I just barged into your house because your door is a quarter open.
Yeah, and blame my kid, throw my kid under the freaking bus. Well, yeah, hey, look, it was Glenn's idea. All right, calm down.
Sure. But I was going to say, obviously, drunk driving, big no-no. Don't do it. Don't condone it. Not a fan of it. However, I will say, Don Draper, quite a drunk driver. Because when he's throwing back scotches left
practice
and right.
Practice makes perfect, Will Ashton.
I think I wanted to, because I ended up watching this episode twice, and I was planning to count how many scotches he throws back, and I unfortunately didn't count. But
I don't think he counted either, so you're good.
I have to assume at least like 4 or 5 scotches have been thrown back.
And he started with beer. He must have gotten sick.
Also, no power steering in those cars, so even tougher to drunk drive.
You even see him roll that stop sign into a right, and
And I'm thinking like, oh dear, like, twice in 1 month the Draper's going to have car issues,
right? Yeah,
but no, he just he's brazen. He just drives through, and I mean, I have to say, I don't think this is the first time he's driven drunk.
Will Ashton, that is quite an accusation to make. Okay, Michael Overholtz, Mikey the O. Like Mike, Michael Jordan.
Yep.
Michael Max.
How much more do you have?
Polly Doggy, and then I'll leave it there.
Mike turn. Mike turn.
Mike Wazowski. Go ahead.
I really like that these women's greatest fear is Helen fucking their husbands, and
that's why they're confused by her walking around, right? Because they think that she's trying to like allure them and be like a mermaid of like, look at me, I'm walking.
But then, of course, what happens? The husband approaches Helen, right?
Yeah,
he's the
Carlton
one
who Francine's husband. Yeah,
comes on to her, And it's just like what a moment for Helen, just to be like, oh my gosh, and then then we do this, and then we kiss, and just really fucking made him feel stupid, and it was such a satisfying moment.
I bet you that she's read Lady Chatterley's Lover, and she knows exactly how this is going to play out, so she's pretty good about it.
There you go. She doesn't. She ain't man. She is into that self pleasure.
I think so.
Sure. And this is the moment that Don catches on video, right? Or on film, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Which I don't know why. I definitely felt like it was like you caught an affair. I don't know how.
Well, he saw Helen and Carlton, and then he moves on to the other two. Real quick, though, maybe that's what I was thinking of. Okay, who plays... I'm going to look this up. Who plays Helen Bishop? Maybe that's what I was thinking of.
She's from... Isn't she from like CSI Miami or like she's NCIS? She's from some cop show.
Darby Stanchfield.
It's NCIS.
I know her from somewhere. Wait, was she from Scandal? And I mix her up with Maggie Siff.
Oh, is that what it is? I know she's definitely in something.
Yes. Okay. So I misspoke earlier. I said she. Okay. Everyone relax. Will Ashton, put your knives away. Okay. She was in Scandal around like 2011 or was. And let's see here. She was also in Private Practice. She's done a bunch of Shondaland stuff. Wow. I messed this up.
Abby Whelan. Yes. Okay.
You done goofed, John.
I apologize, even though I know it's lies.
Can the listener stop, restart the episode, and just make a tally of how many times John has been wrong this episode?
They'll have to replay out of like shock because it's like, wait, John's wrong?
We're in like the 30s.
It's kind of amazing. An anomaly, we'll have to say, I guess. Okay, so Darby Stanchfield, apologies. Maggie Siff, a legend in her own right. She was Sons of Anarchy, which I think I already mentioned, and Law and Order.
She's also an NCIS,
as we already mentioned.
So I was right.
NCIS, really? I didn't know that. Okay. But okay, so we'll move on from there. Okay. What were we talking about? Oh, yeah, the affair. So, no, there's a couple, and they have a moment.
That's a different show, John.
Sorry, Will, go ahead. What did you say?
I said, no, that's a different show, John.
What's a different show?
A joke. The Affair?
The Affair. Yeah, I'm sorry. I've watched two episodes of that show. I hated it, but I think it's really good.
She was also in CSI Miami. I was right twice.
No, there's this couple that like we don't see them a lot in this episode. They only got like one line of dialogue earlier. It's like when they're all hanging out and Betty comes out and is like, oh, hey, Waldorf salad for the adults. And they kind of walk in. I'm kind of like rewatching because I want to make sure I get this right. So, okay. Give me a second. They're going to get to it. Okay. They're handing out the mint juleps, which by the way, Betty was pretty like forceful with that wrist pour. I'm going to say with the, I don't know if that was brandy or whiskey or what. Okay. They didn't get the clown. Okay. They saw a thing about clowns taking their clothes off. That one guy with the weird teeth who jokes about throwing grenades. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go after his teeth, but I will say that character sucks.
Yeah, well, his teeth suck too. I'm just going to... Oh, here we go. Okay.
That's a real thing that the actor has, I think. So I don't want to criticize him for that.
You're right,
I'm just
Wash.
talking
You're right. I need to calm down. Okay, so he's... Oh, no. This is the guy who asks Don... Okay, I love these characters. They try to get to know Don. They try to meet Don where he's at. It's a little bit cringe, but they try to be like, oh, hey, Don, we saw this like commercial... And it's like, did you do that one? And yeah, it's a little, it's innocent. It's just sort of like they know this one thing about Don and they want to connect with him. And they're so cute.
I mean, the ad they describe sounds like it sucks.
Of course.
And so, it was a indirect insult to the man to act like he would come up with something so asinine for an ad. But nevertheless, I think it didn't come with malice. I think they were trying to genuinely engage with the man.
No, that's exactly right. And Don catches them later. And he sees, because throughout this whole sequence, The other couples have been isolated. They've been separated. Carlton's been like hitting on another woman, and the rest, the wives have been sort of like really just unloading on Helen Bishop, trying to, all this like strife. We have this whole thing where they're outside and like the kids are like echoing what their parents must say at home. It's pretty bad. But then you see this married couple who are just out there. Don catches them have a tender, unguarded, unfiltered kiss, and it kills him. Like, you see it. He puts the camera down and he's just like, mind blown. He's just like, why don't I have that? That's real.
I mean, I took it more as like that was like the final straw for him, in that like he sees his home life and these people as being straight laced. Like, he kind of just assumes that they have their shit in order. Like, he's kind of being the promiscuous one by kind of assuming false identities in both sense. As far as like what he is doing in his work and home life. But when he sees a moment like that, an unguarded moment like that, where they are, not being faithful to each other's couple or their partners, and he's like, well, if they're not even going to keep up the facade and like do, a decent thing and be good parents and honor it, like, what good am I, a scallywag like myself, like Don Draper or Dick, whatever. Why am I even trying to do that? Yeah. So he's out, drinking, smoking. The divorcee is kind of casually hitting on him. He's not really, hitting back on her, but Betty sees it.
I don't think she's hitting on him. I think that they are platonically just sort of like connecting over a shared sense of like, this is all bullshit.
I think they're casually flirting, but not like in like a way.
I don't even think they're flirting. I just think they're just sort of there. They're just sort of like, we're the people who get
I think
this.
Don is so checked out that even if she was trying to flirt, he's just not, he's not there right now.
I thought it was two isolated people finding, was it Requiem and other
Requiem, kinship.
Yep. Another point for
here's
John
the problem.
Right.
Will, here's the problem, Will. You have so much charm and charisma that women can't help but flirt with you. And so I imagine you've never been in this scenario where like women are trying to be platonic because they can't help themselves. And you're just like, oh, that's impossible.
Well, anyway, Betty ain't having it.
Betty is not. Oh my God. Because like they look out the window and they're just like, shut that down. And it's so smart on their part, because it is one of those things that like would start off innocent, but you know that road, where that's going. Yeah. So she's just like, Don, it's like her fourth time asking him, go get the cake from High Top. Don pieces out. He is like so bored and he's so annoyed and he's so sick of this entire thing that he doesn't come back until
he commits
much
a crime.
Later. What?
By driving drunk.
Well, I think in those days, it wasn't a crime to drink and drive, but it was a crime to be legally intoxicated.
Sure.
I learned that from Apollo 10.5.
Yes. Sorry, that's what I meant. It was that he was well beyond the point of being casually drunk to being full out inebriated.
Yes.
And he got behind the wheel and drove. So
he's a bad person.
That's a big no matter what time you live in.
Yeah. Yeah. We agree on that. Michael Overholtz.
Hi.
Don Draper leaves the party.
Yep.
I feel like you would have left the party too. I feel like you would have split even earlier.
Yeah, if the beer well had run dry, I'd be out of there.
Well, I was gonna say, you saw that Christmas wrapping, you're like, what am I doing?
Yeah. Enough is enough.
I don't even have a kid. Why am I here? No, I'd be out of there for sure.
But he comes back with a dog. Oh, by the way, we skipped the part where the kid gets slapped.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great part. More kids should get slapped. I'm pro slapping kids.
It's the biggest slap that's ever happened since Oscars 2022.
Did someone get slapped at the Oscars?
I think so. I don't actually know that for sure. I wasn't there.
Did Will Smith stop them?
You know what? Let's say yes.
Okay. Well, he's a good guy.
Who's Will Smith?
He's like America's sweetheart. He would never let like violence happen.
Sure. He's a man. They cut a Sara Lee cake as well. Good cakes. Sarah Lee. I'm just like fast forwarding through all of this. Oh yeah, my favorite shot of the entire episode is when Don Draper is in his car and he's watching the train go by, and you see it like reflected back into the windshield. I imagine this is exactly like the smoke coming out of his nose, and it's very noir. I always imagine every time I do an episode of Cinemaholics with Will Ashton, that's what he looks like to his computer screen. I'm just like, what was that?
Well, also just the big red stopping light too.
Yeah.
Is, great imagery there.
And then, there's a Cheerios ad. And I texted this to you, Will Ashton, about how there's literally a moment in this Cheerios ad where somebody's like, we need more Cheerios. And someone's like, I'll never smile again. And it's like, you didn't seem to care about that, or you didn't seem to appreciate that beautiful dialogue.
Sure. Oh, we forgot to mention this is way back, the lady that wanted to jump in the shower with Don Draper.
Oh, yes. Well, no, we did mention that he was being objectified.
Sure. But just women in this episode.
Oh, it's Francine. She's pregnant. What are you going to do? She wants raw hamburger, and Jon Hamm is right there.
But the casual subtext of this episode is women be horny.
They want to get with Don. And also, Betty's kind of like, Betty's into it. She's just kind of like, because Francine's like, you want company, and Betty's just like, all three of us could maybe, no? Okay, bye.
She's probably
Michael, you haven't spoken to...
Sorry, yeah, I just had nothing to contribute to this conversation. So I was watching a video of Will Ashton watching a video of someone finding out they won a Grammy during the filming of The Bubble.
That sounds like a great video. Actually,
I didn't even know this video exists. Can you send that to me, Mike?
No, it's private.
Daddy got me a dog.
And can you send the video of you watching the video of that video to me as well?
Sure. It's an NFT, but so you'll have to pay me.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
What a king move. Don bails. Okay. With the cake in the front seat, he couldn't be bothered to drop the cake off and just leave from there, right? Makes his wife worry, thinks he was in an accident. Not really think that, but she knew what was going on. But comes back with a dog, echoing back, of course, to Rachel Menken being like, a dog is all a girl really needs. What did you make of this? Is this Don essentially saying like, okay, Sally, all you need is a dog, and that means I don't have to be a real father to you? Am I overreading that?
I think it's him. I think you're on the right read, but also it's like, this will make up for my ineptitude as a father. Like, I'm here.
Yeah.
I'll do what I can, but also this is someone you can rely on.
Don and Sally's entire relationship throughout the series is probably, it's in my top 5 aspects of the show, like character dynamics. It really holds up, and it really is fascinating stuff. And this is definitely one of those first like serious like inklings of like what you're in for with that whole thing. It's obviously a very early stage of like, okay, Sally going through everything in her life with her therapist, I think it's safe to say, Sally being a baby boomer and they need therapy.
I think you mean Betty.
I'm talking about Sally.
Oh, Sally? Okay,
I'm talking about the father-daughter relationship.
Oh, okay.
Betty too.
About the Betty therapist episode from the past episode.
Oh, no. I wasn't being literal. But obviously, of course, everything going on with Betty, I mean, she's just like, I don't even know what to say. And that's true.
I love that Don also does not give a shit. Like, Betty tries to give him a hard time. Like, I don't even know what to say to you. And just nothing.
He's just like,
roll
what
the
are you going to do?
Yeah.
What are you going to do, Betty? I do what I want.
Also, he just like dumped the dog in her life, knowing full well that he'll never have to take care of that dog.
Yep.
Never really have to worry about it. Just another addition to their life, another thing to make it idyllic without him having to worry about the maintenance or care of it, which is very Don Draper, as we've seen in these 3 episodes.
It's very indicative of the times, right? And oh gosh, it's like the second episode was all about like, okay, Betty is sad, Betty is depressed, Betty is clearly dealing with anxiety. And then this episode is all about why. Because it's about all of these partners and their wives and like why they're so dysfunctional. And it's because they're sold on this lie of like what marriage is and what being with a person is supposed to be like. And they're with these people who, at first glance, in the early days of their relationship, it's probably exciting. It's probably thrilling. It's like you're with somebody who takes charge, you know? And then when you're actually married to that person and you have to share your life with them and you get everything from them, all the dimensions, all the stink, this is the result. You get all the bad stuff too. And I think what's beautiful about this episode is that it paints a kind of cynical portrait of marriage, where there's only one functional marriage happening in this episode with that one couple. And that's why it drives Don wild, because it's the one example of it working that he's probably ever seen. Because I don't want to skip ahead, but as we learn about his little backstory as Dick Whitman, it's not like he's used to, you know, actual love and what that looks like, and parents and a couple who are clearly like actually into each other. Marriage of Figaro. Mozart.
Don't ever tell me that Don was unloved.
We'll have to get back to that, huh? When we start to see a little bit more of Don's backstory, huh? Because
that's the Hobo Code. That's the episode I'm waiting for. That's
Hobo Code. Oh my God.
That's my Marriage of Figaro episode.
I still quote that thing that guy says, you know, it's like, I sleep like a stone, you know, like the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Are you okay, Will? You seem confused, like you don't know what we're talking about.
No, I'm good.
Insightful.
Just enjoying this conversation between John and Mike.
We'll be back for the next episode of Mad Men Men, which is New Amsterdam, episode 4 of the first season. But we went way over long. We really need to figure this out, guys. It's like you need a better host or something who knows how to consolidate.
It'd go faster if we didn't have to correct you all the time.
That, you know what? We would have saved at least 2 minutes. So you're totally right.
If I may make a editorial note, I think we should have spent less time talking about the episode, and more time talking about your upcoming wedding.
That's true. We would have been in such a good mood. We would have talked even faster. We would have gotten through it so much faster. Yeah. Well, you're right.
I mean, this episode is called Marriage of Figaro.
Yeah,
and I think it's only appropriate that we.
Yeah.
I think we should be talking about your marriage.
You're talking about
my marriage,
your marriage, and how instead of going on the honeymoon, we're all going to binge Billions.
Binge Dune?
Yeah.
Billions.
By Denis Villeneuve? Oh, Billions.
Billions, yeah. This hit show.
I heard what I wanted to hear.
Okay.
I have a Showtime subscription, so you just let me know when and where.
All right.
I would watch an episode of it, to be sure.
Sure. I'll watch anything Paul Giamatti's in.
You're speaking my language, Mike.
All right. Well, thank you for listening. This was the 3rd episode of Mad Men Men. We'll be back. And bye.
Leaving on a southern train only yesterday.